Hello! So I'm doing another barefaced video because I have new news about my cancer diagnosis. And, I thought we were past, some of the scary stuff, and we are past some of the scary stuff. But, after a day of homeschooling and entertaining my children, we set up our frame pool today. So my kids could get out and get some exercise and have something to take their minds off everything. It's stressful. They haven't been able to play with their friends. We haven't been able to go to the places we usually go, to get out and to get our minds off things. I know I look so tired. My husband sleeps all day and works all night, and he has to sleep all day because he works all night. He works graveyards. He's a truck driver. And, grateful for what he's doing. But even truck drivers have been affected in very negative ways as well. His hours have been cut in half because the nation is shut down. Shipments have, ceased and have been cut in half. They are shipping a lot of medical equipment and a lot of food, a lot of essential items, to places of business and stores and hospitals and things. So they're working hard, but their hours have been cut in half. There are truck drivers who have been being furloughed. And, we think, if you're a truck driver, your job is safe. That's not true. Not everybody is thinking or realizing how, because the nation's been shut down, even though all those other shipments are going on, there's an extremely large chunk of shipments that are not happening anymore. And that is rough, really rough. But that is not ultimately why I'm making this video. For those of you who've been following, I was diagnosed 3 months ago with invasive and non-invasive ductal carcinoma. That's a kind of breast cancer. And I had to have a bilateral mastectomy. I'm going through reconstruction, and recently, my oncologist gave me a call, and it was very frustrating because I was having a pretty good day. I was in a really good mood. I had got up at a good time. I had exercised. I was starting my homeschool day with my kids. They were up pretty close to on time, got ready for their day, and they were doing their schoolwork when I got this call from my oncologist. It's like rubbing salt into the wound. They got the pathology back. And that means that after they had removed my breast tissue, of course they did the tests on the lymph nodes that they had removed, and those were clear. However, he let me know that the pathologist looked over my results, and they discovered what they call a margin of suspicion. That means that in this case, the cancer that was growing inside of my breasts had grown up to an area where there were cancer cells right along, right before you go from there being breast tissue to muscle and skin. And because we caught my breast cancer so early, the cancer cells are like molecular, they're extremely tiny. They said that, at least this is what my doctor told me, that there's no way to know for sure if the cancer has spread into the skin, if it has spread into the muscle. I don't have any other indicators. There's no lumps. My skin doesn't feel unusually warm. There's no indication whatsoever up here, in my chest wall, that there is cancer. So I need to meet with my pathologist, and they want to go over the report with me. Yay! But this is frustrating because before, when I received my initial cancer diagnosis, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, we knew there was cancer. There it was, plain as day. And, to have my doctors give me my options, radiation, chemo, surgery, it was easy for me to say, cut them off. They have betrayed me. My breasts are trying to kill me. Cut them off, And that was not an easy surgery, and ultimately not an easy decision, because, they're part of our body. It initially is an amputation. I had to have my breasts amputated from my body because of this cancer. I did choose to have a bilateral, even though there was no cancer in my left breast. I guess for some of you, for some pretty obvious reasons. Yeah, I think you understand why I chose that. I did not want to have to keep worrying about whether or not cancer was growing in my left breast, Also, I wanted them through reconstruction and afterwards to be even, as even as possible. I know a lot of women choose to not do the reconstruction, but I chose for very personal reasons, to do the reconstruction, more for me than anybody. So there you are. But this margin of suspicion, I was having such a good day, and then to have my oncologist call me and say there's a margin of suspicion was very frustrating. I asked him, is there any way to do like a scan or an X-ray or something to see if there actually are cancer cells in there, that we didn't get with the surgery. And I haven't talked to my pathologist yet, and maybe y'all know more about this, out there than I do. But he said, not to his knowledge, he said he doesn't believe so, because the chest wall is so dense, and unless you actually have a tumor, an obvious tumor, he said in the case of an obvious tumor, like a lump or, a mass of some kind, in that case they can do, imaging, and they can see if there's a large tumor there. But in this case, the cells are so small, on such a molecular level, that he doesn't believe that they would be able to determine for certain if there's cancer cells in my skin or in my muscle there. So I guess I'll have to meet with my pathologist and go over the report and, determine from there. But it's sounding like they want to do radiation, not on the breast, that's gone, but up here, and I'm nervous, I'm scared. I know that if they do radiation, they're going to have to give me some kind of medication to protect my heart, to protect my lungs, because, radiation, I don't know what level of radiation they would do. I know that there's different levels. I've got to talk to my pathologist to find all that out. But it's just frustrating. I was on this cloud. I was on this high of, the cancer's out of me, it's gone, I can heal from here, and of course I'm still in that mindset of healing, but frustrating, margin of suspicion. And that's the question, if they cannot prove absolutely that there's cancer cells there, do I go through with it? Do I do the radiation? There might not be cancer there, and what will the radiation do to me? Does it put me at risk for, a secondary cancer? Of course it does. Does it put me at risk, for, permanent scarring and skin damage? And, is the skin going to turn black and die, and then I'll have to have, some kind of, repair, that needs to happen? Of course, radiation, it will kill the good cells and any bad cells that might be there. So I'm nervous, you guys. I'm so nervous. I'm not afraid like I was at the beginning of this. I don't feel like there's anything going on in my body right now that, is going to end my life super soon. But of course, there's a million things that can happen. You can have a stroke or a heart attack or have a car accident. It's like, you can't worry about those things. But in the case of knowing you have cancer, you feel invaded. I feel like I was invaded, like my body was under attack, by this thing I can't see. And so here we are. I have some decisions I have to make. I've got to talk to my pathologist and determine where to go from here. But I also want to make these videos to say, look, there's hope, don't be afraid, I mean, yeah, you might feel a little afraid, but also don't be afraid. Don't let cancer control you, don't let cancer take over your life. It feels like it does. It becomes a part of your life, like anything else that needs attention. It becomes a part of it, but it doesn't have to be the end, In my case, I feel like it was kind of a beginning. I've reevaluated my life. I've made a lot of healthy changes. I've discovered the power of prayer, and I know who my friends are. And, that is a blessing, and I'm grateful for that. But, my battle may not be completely over yet. And I may end up needing to do some radiation. And whatever it takes, whatever it takes. I'm not going anywhere. And if that means radiation, that's what it means. It already has meant a bilateral mastectomy. It already has meant hormone repression therapy, and whatever else it means. And so I know this video is going a little long, but I also wanted to share an experience I had when I went to the oncologist's office. There was a gentleman there, a senior gentleman, who he was wearing a mask. He had a cough. And I felt for him. I felt nervous for him. I also felt a little nervous for everyone else there because I'm like, cough. But, I knew that, that cough he had was likely because of the battle he was fighting with his cancer. And when I went back into the treatment room where they were taking my vitals, he was, sitting in a chair, and he had an attendant there giving him his chemo. And he smiled at me. You guys, he just smiled. This senior gentleman who had lived a long and very likely difficult life. I don't know his story, but for a moment I was a part of a piece of his story, and he smiled at me. There he was, in pain, sick, but strong. And he still had a smile for a complete stranger. That gives me strength, and that gives me hope. And, I just want to end with that, and to tell you all to stand sure, stay strong. We are warriors in this together. And you have my prayers to you and to yours. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe. I will continue sharing updates on my journey, and I hope to talk to you soon.